Monster of the Month Club. It's your friendly neighborhood mad scientist, me, Laura E. And today we are going to do a little bit of a thrift haul video. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the doll I found, and then I'm going to describe my plan on how to transform it into this week's witch, which is Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service. Here is the Harley Quinn doll I found at my local thrift shop. She's part of the Mattel DC Superhero Girls line, which was a line of dolls, and they had a web series. Obviously, she's a villain of the group. I found her in a bundle with another Barbie, I believe, and I picked her out because she's slightly larger than your regular fashion doll and a little bit more robust, which is easier for me to work with for my first go at this. I first am going to remove her face with acetone. Even though she will be getting a suit around her, I still don't want her to be dirty on the inside because that's gross. So I cleaned her up, I removed her paint and cleaned up some of the dirt on her with the acetone. I took out her hair, so I was initially a little confused as to if she was Harley Quinn because she didn't have her signature pigtails, but I guess someone had just put up her hair. I cut off her little goggles, which I might use for a later project. They're pretty cute. And then I started to snip off her hair. Since I am going to put a plush head around her head, I don't need to take the hair out by the roots, but I did want to remove most of it so it doesn't get in the way. And I took off her hands because they're a little bit bulky for the pattern I have made, and I'm doing the same thing with the feet. Because of their position and their inability to move at the ankle, they made the leg width I wanted a little bit difficult, so I decided to remove them with my jeweler's saw. It took a while to saw off both feet. I don't know the best way to use a jeweler's saw, but I tried my best and I was safe about it. That's the most important thing. And once I got both the feet off, I made sure the pattern was wide enough to cover her leg. Basically, I folded it down to see if it met the center line of the leg, so I knew that if I put two of them, it would cover the leg and not be too tight. I wanted to basically use her for her range of motion, so I had to make sure that that was going to work. I still might test it a few more times before I actually cut the fabric. I might even do a test on some scrap fabric. Here I am going to make the headpiece of the pattern. I wanted to make it in proportion with my illustration and with the body piece I had already cut out and the leg pieces. So I basically want her to be a potato shape with legs, spindly legs and arms, but not too spindly. So I'm using some cardstock, some cheap cardstock that I purchased. It's a little easier to work with and lasts a little longer than just plain paper when you're tracing on fabric. So there I am, testing it, seeing what it looks like. And now I'm going to draw the ears because she has little kitty ears, and those are going to be a separate piece. And I'm adding a little extra onto the ear, so I have a little leeway when I put it into the headpiece for the final assembly. It's always better to have too much fabric than not enough. You can always trim it down, but you can't add fabric on at the end. And then here I am making the inner ear piece, and I'm going to trim that down just so it fits inside the ear. And then I can always zhuzh it a little later when I am actually cutting the felt. And then I made little pads for the bottom of her feet and her palms because she's a little kidda, and the little kiddas have toe beans. While she's not going to have individual little toe beans, she will have little pads. And here I am seeing how they work on her pattern pieces. It's a lot of testing things out and then adjusting them as you go along. And then here I am. I'm going to try and decide on the eye size. I had some safety eyes and I had some glass cabochons, which I was hoping would work with the size of the head because I prefer those. It turns out they did work pretty well. They were big cartoony eyes, but that's kind of the style I was going for. So I'm glad that worked out. And I traced them on the pattern just to see how they would look. 2 of them, and that worked out, so that was great. And then I can either paint them on the back, or I think I'm just gonna paint them on the back. And then here I have this cute pattern book of how to make little animal outfits. I went through to see if I could find a pattern that I could modify of clothing, because clothing patterns are super difficult for me, and if I had a base pattern to modify, that would make my life a lot easier so I didn't mess it up. And I really want that bear's sweater for me as a human. And that is actually the pattern I ended up going with because I thought the shape was most consistent with Kiki's dress in the movie. It's real flowy in the movie, which is going to be kind of difficult to capture, but I think as long as I get the general shape right, I'll be happy. They didn't have the skirt pattern for any of the dresses, so I think I'm going to take the sweater pattern for the bear and modify the sleeves a little bit and then modify the length of the sweater to make it more of a dress. And then I'll skip the collar because I don't want that, and I will instead just do the collar technique for some of the other shirts that they have. I bought some binding and I am testing out bow making ideas. I originally thought I was going to make the bow right then and there, but I decided not to because I was going to make it after I finished as a last piece, because then I'll know the actual size and how it's going to look on the actual piece. And there I laid out the pattern, and that's it for this time. Thanks so much for watching. If you like dolls, monsters, or fun crafts, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow along on social media for all the creepy crawly fun. And until next time, stay spooky, friends!